Wisp Sports Radio, the voice of women in sport.
Hello, and thanks for downloading Transcending Sport here on Wisp Sports, because we believe that women in sport deserve equal coverage, and you can join in the conversation by following us on social media at Wisp Sports, which will help us to turn up the volume on women's sports. Our guest today is Brandi Mitchell from San Diego, where she founded the San Diego Soccer Women's Group, which is a large organization representing some 1,000 players out in California who play soccer throughout their lives. There are age groups for women playing soccer at amateur level right up to their 80s. And they have a full fixture through the season, and they even play overseas too. And it gives women the opportunity to participate in a sport they love, whether they're new to it or they've been playing since they were in school. And as Brandi explains, their goal is to connect age 30 and older women with recreational soccer teams, training, tournaments, travel, and charities. And they support the collaboration of women in grassroots and amateur soccer worldwide, and play for the United Nations 2030 Global Goals for Sustainable Development of Health and Wellness, Gender Equality and Reduced Inequalities. So, as well as having fun, they help women connect through their shared values and by building a social community. Hi, Brandi. Thank you for joining me and welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Well, yours is a very interesting story because you seem to have taken over the world when it comes to what I call senior women's soccer. Is that fair to call it senior women's soccer?
Yes. Not everyone loves the term senior, but I think it's appropriate to be able to use that word. Yeah.
Well, you started this organization, but I know obviously we want to hear all about it. But first of all, tell us a little bit about your involvement in sport. Have you always been sporty?
You know what? I have. I grew up in a family of four daughters for my parents, and we were all athletic. I played field hockey and softball and soccer, of course, and a couple other sports just along the way. And they were always really supportive. Both of them had played sports when they were younger. My mom more so into drill team and some of the sports that were available to girls when she was growing up. And for my dad, it was things like football, coming from the Midwest to California when he was younger. There were a few things available to him like that, not so much soccer. But my mom actually did play soccer as an adult. My dad coached her. So we went right into the game in that direction. So for me, I grew up in Southern California, starting about age 5, playing in leagues like AYSO, and then moving into more competitive soccer as I grew up, playing all the way through high school.
All right, so it really is in your blood then.
Yeah, for sure. I was exposed to it. And, for me, I was born in 76, so Title IX was already in full effect. So I had the benefit for sure of having access to, tons of leagues, especially in Southern California where we have the weather year round. There were so many options for me when I was growing up. Yeah,
wonderful. Well, where did this idea come from to form the San Diego women's soccer team and take it way beyond San Diego? How did that come about?
Right. So in about 2009, I had been playing for a women's league, and I was introduced just through a friend. And back then, it was more word of mouth. These leagues actually had started for women in the 70s. So they had been around, but there was no visibility. So when I found out again, just, a friend said, "Hey, I know you play soccer. I know another person who plays soccer. Why don't you join this women's league?" And I was 26 at the time. I had 2 kids, little toddlers that were out on the sidelines with my husband, and realized that I wanted to see more women out there playing, and there was no visibility online. So there was, obviously the internet was alive and kicking already, but there wasn't a place for women's soccer just, as far as a website goes or a kind of a resource hub. And that's where it really started, is saying, okay, there needs to be a place that somebody could just type in, I'm in San Diego, type in San Diego women's soccer and be able to find these adult leagues, because there was more than just the one. And I knew that. It was just getting that exposure. So from there, it was just really, it actually sat dormant for a bit, just acting as a resource. And then just a few years ago, I decided to reach out on social media and connect globally. I have a background in international studies, having gone to the Monterey Institute of International Studies for my graduate work. So for me, there was this big picture of there's so much more than just our local area, and why wouldn't sports be included in that, especially for women?
Yeah, certainly. Well, clearly there's an enormous interest, isn't there? And tell us a little bit how it picked up the momentum that it did, and then you obviously there's age groups now, which I thought I followed sport pretty closely, but I hadn't realized it was so well structured through the ages for women of all ages to participate.
Right. And that's the thing that I had decided when I started playing again at 27. It was a league that was age 30 plus. And so they could have two women per team, ages 25 to 29. And I fit in that category at the time. And now at 43, I play in over 30 and over 40. In San Diego County, we have over 45 age group. We have age 55 and age 58. So that means we have women all the way through age 80 who are actively playing year round. This isn't just, they come out for one season or one tournament. It's a community of women. So, I mean, I definitely want to give credit to quite a few areas of Southern California, Northern California, Washington, Texas, especially out on the East Coast. We have the Fairfax Women's Soccer League. They all started in the 70s. So these leagues have been around for 40 years. And exactly what you're saying, that you had not seen it. And that was the piece that made so much sense to me, is bringing that visibility out. Tournaments have been going on all throughout the year. There's a handful of them, besides the actual Senior Games organization, which is a national and state and local association, but just individual women who have created these tournaments to give this opportunity for this community to get together for competition.
So how do you structure those leagues then? Give us an idea of what that looked like. How many teams would be on any one of those age groups, for example, and what their playing opportunities are in a season?
Yeah. So I don't run any one league, and that's the nice part, is I'm truly just promoting all of the leagues that are in San Diego County. And in addition, I go out of my way we have local counties, Orange County, Los Angeles County. And like you mentioned, I brought this out globally so that I can highlight leagues in Prague. I can highlight leagues in South Africa. I can show the world that women are playing at older ages. Again, through social media, that makes it so easy, both with the images, but also the conversation, how easy it is to network, meet these women and start connecting with them and having conversations. And as I travel, I'm able to meet with them in person and make those connections even stronger to make sure that we're supporting each other. So the way that the leagues are structured locally, and what I see generally in the United States, is women are playing 11v11 soccer from ages, again, looking at the older leagues, ages 30 plus all the way through, usually into the 50s. Once the women are in the 60s and 70s and 80s, as far as age range, then they may bring it down to an 8v8 or a 6v6. Partly because, of course, there's fewer women available, and so there may not be 11 available to play that day, and they'd like to have subs, so they bring it down to a little smaller field. But of course, physically, it makes sense to not extend more than they need to with the full field, and have to run that length when they can enjoy themselves with just a little bit smaller field. And as far as the leagues go, we have three primary ones here in San Diego that allow for the older ages. And those ones we'll see anywhere from 4 to 6 teams in the older divisions. And then as far as tournaments go, there can be turnout for some of the local San Diego leagues of maybe 15 to 20 different teams showing up in the age range of 50 plus. And so that's the 50s, 60s, 65s, and 70s. And we have 2 of those per year here in San Diego.
Now, do you have a coaching structure for these teams then? What does that look like? And especially for women maybe not too familiar with the rules, maybe new to the sport. Do they get any help at a coaching level?
Right. And that's where I'm seeing the gap right now. That's my biggest project and biggest concern is it was an interesting evolution, I think, from the 70s forward, that women were generally entering soccer for the very first time at ages 30, 35, 40 years old, maybe a little bit younger, but their kids would be playing. They'd see each other and say, hey, let's get something started. And that truly is how it began. And now we're at a place that these women have been playing, if they started at 30, they've been playing for maybe 30 years already. So they have the experience. They have a quality of play that they can step out and be competitive. To bring new women into the game is a lot harder. And we have the group, of course, of women who've never played before. But because our leagues, the play is advanced enough, it is really challenging for them to step in and learn the game when it's already at full speed. So one of my goals with San Diego Soccer Women is to basically convince organizations here in San Diego that are already established to open up women's beginner training courses, sessions. And that'll include also women who used to play, who need to come back into the game, but just haven't played in so long. I mean, it may have been 20, 30 years at least, even longer since they've played. Again, with Title IX, they may have played through age 16, 17, 18, but then had this massive gap in having access to playing. So that's a main goal, is to get beginner women's soccer. We don't have coaches. The leagues pretty much run with team managers. So it's just one of the players who decides to do all the coordination and organization. The leagues have board of directors who will go into, they do formal established rules and regulations. They follow all of that. And then from there, make sure that the teams have their team managers all set up in order to play. They do have seasons. Most of the times it's 3 seasons that they'll organize. They generate a schedule, make sure fields are organized and registered with the local parks. And then from there, women just know the times they show up and play.
And how far would they travel then in a season? How many fixtures would they have?
We see usually about, I'd say 12 games per season, and they tend to have set fields, so they don't travel, and that's something that's really interesting to me when I watch what I see happening in the UK for women's sports, for example, for recreational grassroots soccer. I watch these teams, and there are so many different teams traveling from city to city to play, and it's a very different structure here in the sense that women just individually join up from different parts of San Diego. So they may drive at the most maybe 40 minutes to get to the field, but it's the same field at the same time every week. And they play against each other just in rotation, but it's all within the same league. And that's it. There's not so much of seeing, there's not a community, like for us, a neighborhood type of community where one team comes from there and another team comes from another one, like Central San Diego and Northern San Diego and Southern San Diego. It really is just that wherever the individuals live, whatever team they ended up on, that's how they would be formatted to be able to get out there and play.
And I would imagine this creates quite a community amongst the women, that they otherwise wouldn't have.
It is beyond true. And that's one thing, interviewing any of the women, especially in their 60s, 70s, and 80s, that's probably the most widely used word when they talk about what it means to be a soccer player. And it does take some convincing to let them know that they are soccer players, because they say, I'm too old to be a soccer player. I'm too old to be an athlete. And there's some, again, with how they grew up, there is some convincing to say, no, you are an athlete. You are a soccer player. You can own it. And that's part of the reason I do my San Diego Soccer Women shirts, is to give that pride, to make it public. So the community is the women themselves, of course, playing together on a team, playing together within a league. They talk about experiencing deaths together, the cancers together, losses of pets. I mean, whatever it is, on a daily basis, there's some contact that they're able to have, especially in this day and age, having, email and instant chatting. They keep in touch that way, but also out in the field, there's always built-in time to socialize and joke around and tease and tell stories. And that means a lot to them in ways that, again, when they were growing up, the community wouldn't have been built around sport, and it is now.
Yes, absolutely. Now, but how seriously do they take this in terms of their own fitness then, Brandi? Do they go to the gym? Do they cross-train in some way to make sure they're fit for play?
Right. The age groups, obviously, there's a difference. When we look at the over 30s and the over 40s and 50s, then definitely in San Diego, there's a community overall mindset of being outdoors and exercising, as well as going to gyms and doing things that are, organized activities for fitness, for sure. But we also, in general, lead busy enough lives that it's hard to fit it all in. So I would say for the age group of 30 through 50, you might see some cross training as far as going to a gym, or even multi-sport. We have softball out here that's popular enough for adults to have choices. And for the older ages, it's interesting because the spread of pickleball is definitely big here. So if there's going to be any multi-sport women with soccer, it's usually pickleball. It may be other sports, but definitely not the high impact. You don't see, if golf is an option, they may be doing that, but it's hard to find access to sports. There's swimming. There is women's basketball at older ages here. I don't see the age 55 to 65 and up doing a lot of fitness outside of soccer. They train by doing the play, and that's been enough for them.
And how much recognition do they get in terms of, is there any local media that pays attention to what they're doing?
Surprisingly to me, there is very little, and that's what's been so exciting for what I've done over the past couple of years is for the first time that I'm aware of, there was an interview on public radio, the National Public Radio channel here in the U.S., and that was shocking. You know, there were so many women players saying, like, why do they want to talk to us? We're just coming out and playing soccer. It's not a big deal. So that mindset probably has gone in both directions, that by them not feeling how amazing they are, then they haven't reached out to the media, and the media hasn't picked up on it just for the fact that there isn't visibility in the other way. The women aren't coming out talking about it, and also, the media is not looking for it. They're not thinking about it. And again, we do have senior sports organizations here that are doing their best to try to reach out and kind of bring this community globally together, but definitely nationally and in the state. And it just hasn't been very, I don't know, it hasn't taken hold as much as I think it should.
Now, your mission is obviously quite impressive in terms of your global approach to this, because you support, obviously women in grassroots, but organizations, amateur organizations and soccer clubs worldwide. Don't you talk a little bit about those organizations that you've selected?
Sure. One of the main ones that I've worked with for a couple of years now is called Global Goals World Cup. And that is an organization that focuses on women in soccer and how to combine those into a new version of the World Cup, a new version of how soccer competition can bring the world together. And so it does involve only women. And it's like a 5v5 formatted structure that can be done anywhere in the world. The main ones are in Copenhagen and then New York City, and I've brought teams there twice now. And what this did is I had first contacted that organization last year when I was planning for a group of women to go to Norway to play soccer at a field that quite a few people would recognize if they saw the picture. It's in Henningsvær. And it looks like an island with this beautiful field right in the middle of it with mountains in the background, gorgeous water surrounding. So I had seen a picture of that field and decided to bring a group out there, and ended up getting 19 women total who wanted to go with me, and we had an amazing trip, but I wanted it to be more than that. So one of these organizations, Global Goals World Cup, I reached out to them and they taught me about the Sustainable Development Goals, which is part of the United Nations, one of their initiatives to bring a better world by the year 2030. So that's one big aspect, when you're talking about bringing this globally and the types of organizations that I'm aligning with, is there is a much bigger picture to what we're doing. Of the 17 global goals, we talk about goal 3, which is health and well-being, which obviously ties in really well with the fact that these are women becoming fit through soccer, staying fit. We talk about gender equality. So again, representing women in the world and girls also, who want the opportunity of equity to be given these chances just like men, and gender recognition overall. And then reduced inequalities, goal 10, is one that we talk a lot about, because another part of being a group of women within a community is that there are a lot of differences that connect us. We're not all married. We're not all mothers. We aren't all straight. We aren't all, the same gender affiliation that we expect. So that's one thing we talk a lot about, is that it's important that we recognize that being a woman in soccer it's not the concept of being a soccer mom. It's not one thing. So globally, by aligning with the United Nations global goals, that brings us to a whole nother level. And as I reach out on social media to these, again, small grassroots teams or leagues, then they see the familiarity of what we're doing here, and I'm inspired by what they're doing where they are.
And how many women would you have in the leagues, say in the San Diego area, Brandi, at the moment?
Yeah, I've thought so much about this, and I actually have a background in accounting. And so when I think about the data that I would pull together, I don't have one firm number because we have so much crossover and women playing in multiple leagues. And so I would say when I look at our 5 primary leagues, which are pretty large, depending on the age grouping, there's definitely at least 1,000 women playing within the 30 plus age group. Throughout the entire county. And I know it seems like a lot, but again, we have so many opportunities when you include also the indoor and arena play that we have. We have futsal leagues. We have not so much beach soccer, but there are other opportunities that are soccer related that if you include all of that, we have a really strong community here.
That's fabulous. And it sounds like it's going to continue to grow, as generations come into it. You're going to have that turnover, but the base seems to be building incredibly strong.
It's very true. It's very true that the biggest competition that we have to women joining soccer is women having access, like you mentioned, to other fitness opportunities and other sports. But an interesting thing is happening, and I don't see a lot of conversation about this, and I'm hoping to kind of bring it all up nationwide, if not more than that. And that is that women who are my age, maybe a little bit younger and obviously a little bit older, we grew up with Title IX. We had maybe 15 years of sports while we were kids. And we've had, knee injuries and hip injuries and back injuries and concussions, a combination of physical issues because of all the intensity of playing sport. And when I look at my group, growing into our 60s and 70s and 80s and trying to continue playing soccer at the level that I see women playing now, there's that concept that if the women playing now 60, 70, and 80 years old really didn't do much sports, their bodies were very fresh and very unhurt, if I can say that, when they first started. What's going to happen when those of us who've already beaten our bodies so much, what's going to happen when we try to play at those older ages? And so based on that, I'm looking at bringing walking soccer, which they call walking football. Sometimes it's called walk soccer, bringing that here into San Diego County so that anything I can do to make sure women don't leave the game before they're ready would be an opportunity. So in addition, like I mentioned before, to bring beginner women's soccer, I also want to see that there's that next option in case you aren't able to do running soccer, that there's the walking option, which just basically means you can't head, you can't slide, and you can't run. But it's fast paced. It's a little bit smaller field, which some of the older women are used to. Again, looking at something like a 6v6 field, and you are challenging your body. You're having to use technique and skill. It's passing, it's touches on the ball. It's using those moves and getting the ball into the goal. No difference. And it's going to take some interesting psychology for me to convince women who have finally found this identity as soccer players that they can play a slower game and still really get the benefit of it. But that's going to be the better option than leaving altogether.
Yes, certainly is. Well, great incentives, Brandi. It really is admirable what you're doing, and I hope that we'll be able to find a player through you who would come on one of our other shows and tell their story of how they got into soccer at an older age.
Absolutely. There are plenty of them available, and they would love to speak up and let other women know this opportunity is out there.
Fantastic. Well, congratulations on what you've achieved so far, and good luck. When does your season come to an end now? Where are we in your season cycle?
We're looking at, again, because of weather, we get to continue playing outdoor for quite a bit through the fall. So we have until about Thanksgiving that we keep our leagues going. We may have a few games into December even, and we put on mittens every now and then. But in general, we can play in normal uniforms and get out there and start again in mid-January and keep it going. So.
And then start up again in the new year. Well, terrific. Well, good luck, Brandi, and thank you for taking the time to come on the show and tell us about it.
Thank you very, very much. I appreciate it.
Hi, I'm Sam Cornett, a proud WISP ambassador and a Canadian squash player. I'm grateful to find all my sports news in one place, and I love the in-depth coverage and variety WISP offers. To follow me, check me out on Instagram, samantha.j91. Thanks for listening and supporting WISP.
And if you're interested in getting involved in women's soccer at an amateur level and by joining these groups, you'll find more information on our website at wispsports.com. Just click on the Listen tab and drop down to Transcending Sport. And if you're listening on a podcast app, you'll find a link in the episode notes with this show. Just scroll down wherever you're listening to the podcast. As always, if you'd like to join in the conversation or tell us about anyone that you think we should be talking to here on the podcast, then do drop us a line at info@wispsports.com. And you can also join in that conversation, obviously, on social media at Wisp Sports. And as I said, you'll find a lot more information on our website at wispsports.com, a lot more conversations, articles, videos, and blogs, as well as the podcasts. Until the next time, thank you for listening and for helping us to turn up the volume on women's sports.